Alright, for this video, we are going to rate the late and great actor Marilyn Monroe, and we are going to see what she will be rated. Now, before I start, I just want to compare two images, and one thing that I noticed is that her rating wasn't as high as I would have expected it to be, and I feel like the main reason for that is because she's looked at as a sex symbol. So I'm gonna just put these two pictures right next to each other, and the red area is what their measurements are, and then the blue area is what should the measurements be. So this is I believe the 90-60-90 rule, and pretty much the body should be somewhat of a hourglass figure, which she does have. And then the person right next to her is a model, and she also has that as well. Now, the difference between Marilyn Monroe and this other lady is that one is curvy and the other one is not. Now, even though the other one isn't not naturally curvy or anything like that, she still has the natural body shape or natural figure that a woman should want to have, right? Now, her being a sex symbol at this time made her more appealing, I guess you can say. And I'm gonna put another little photograph up, and this photograph is pretty much like a lady. This was in 1957. She literally got a ticket for the bathing suit that she wears, and even though she got a ticket for the bathing suit that she wore, a person like Marilyn Monroe would not. Obviously, she would wear those type of scandalous things that you're not supposed to wear. So that's what kind of intrigued people to desiring her. So that's one thing that I noticed when analyzing her face, wondering why her rating is low. So I'm gonna get to that right now. All right, so now her overall rating is a 4.9. How rare is that? That is 1 in 1.94 people. And the percentile is the top 50%, so pretty much average. Her side facial score is 30%. Her front facial score is 15%. Her total facial harmony score is 21%. Her facial dimorphism is a 3.5. Her body fat factors is an 8.5. Her miscellaneous features is an 8. The tier list to the right side: tier 1 is ideal, tier 2 is near ideal, tier 3 is normal, tier 4 is a slight flaw, tier 5 is a flaw, tier 6 is a huge flaw, and tier 7 breaks harmony. Now, before I start, I'm not going to go through all the measurements. I'm going to go through the most important ones that I feel like that needs to be talked about, and we're going to go from there. All right, so for the overall facial assessment breakdown, let's start off with the worst features. So for the worst features is the bad eye spacing. So her eye spacing is kind of too spaced out far apart, which you will see later. She does have a very low hyoid bone. That is the bone that's situated right underneath the neck, right underneath the neck area. And that bone sticks out too far. If the bone sticks out too far, it's going to stretch out the neck, which also makes that angle more obtuse. So that is the submental cervical angle. She does have low set cheekbones, which you do not want to have that, especially for a female, because it makes her face look less feminine, and it also makes the face less striking as well. She also has a short ramus, so she has less jaw body. Her eyebrows are too far away from her eyes. She does have excessive amounts of forehead exposure, so she does have a pretty wide forehead in terms of width. And then she also has an M-shaped hairline and the temple recession. Now, obviously, in the pictures that you're going to see, you're not going to really see it because she has like this curly hair thing going on, and she's trying to hide her hairline. So some people are able to hide their hair recession if they have long hair. But for her, the photos that I've seen with her with no makeup in the pool, she did have an M-shaped hairline with a lot of recession near the temple area. Now, her best features is a prominent brow bone. She does have upturned eyebrows, great facial convexity, perfect lip protrusion, almond-shaped eyes, and she also has a perfect bite. Now, the first measurement is the eye separation ratio. I gave that a tier 7, and hers is 51%. Now, out of everybody that I've ever measured, this is probably the worst I've ever seen. If your eye spacing is this wide, it's going to make you look kind of like alien-like. And the main problem with this is the one eye test, or the one spacing eyes apart. Her eye spacing is a little bit too far out, but it really comes down to the one eye test, or the one eye spacing. So it should be at least one eye spacing in between each eye. For hers is a little bit more on the wider range. And so that's one of the main reasons why. And she doesn't really have that much of a prominent cheekbone area too. So her face just isn't that wide, and her eyes are just extremely far apart. Going from pupil to pupil, that is also going to be divided by the cheekbone distance. So that's how I'm able to get 51%. But this right here is probably her biggest flaw out of everything. The next one is the facial thirds. I gave that a tier 4. Now the upper third is at 27%, which is 6 degrees away. And also the lower third is 6% away from 33%. So this is going to be a tier 4, which is going to be considered a slight flaw. So this isn't anything too bad, but the main reason why this is also going to be detrimental for her dimorphism is because her lower third is more dominant than her middle third. Now, preferably you want your middle third to be more longer than your lower third. So this is only going to suit a man, but it's not going to suit a female, because you want your middle third to be the longest third of them all, not your lower third. Cheekbone height settiness. Now, like I said again, her cheekbones isn't really too prominent like that. It was kind of difficult to find exactly where the peak of each cheekbone may be lying at, because her cheekbones just isn't that prominent for whatever reason. I mean, some people just don't have cheekbones that are not prominent, even though they're lean in body fat. I gave this a tier 5, which is just a flaw. You do not want to have low set cheekbones. And also this is going to hurt her dimorphism as well. Another factor that can lead to having low cheekbones is if you have a very compact midface. So that means that, you know, your face is more compact, it's more shorter, it's not too elongated. So if her midface was a little bit more longer, and let's say the cheekbones were still at the same distance, right? That second blue line, let's say if that second blue line was at the exact same distance, just with a longer midface, that 65% will probably be more closer to 72%. I guarantee you that. So that's the advantage of having just a longer midface. But like I said again, men can get away with longer midfaces while females cannot. So it's kind of like if or ain't. So we're gonna go to the next measurement. All right, so for the eyebrow settiness, I gave it a tier 5 as well, which is a flaw. And yes, for a female, you can get away with having higher set eyebrows, but this is a bit too high. It almost looks exaggerated, and you do not want to have eyebrows this high. And it also can affect your FWHR, and you don't want it to affect your FWHR because it's gonna make your face look less compact, and it's gonna make your face look more elongated. So you don't want your facial features to be too spread out or far apart away from other features of your face. So yeah, it's gonna make your face look less intimidating, more inviting, but that's also gonna affect your attractiveness as well. So you want to have your features more closer set to other features as well, which in her case is her eyes. So you don't want your eyebrows to be too far apart from your eyes. And yeah, so this is this is probably her second biggest flaw in my opinion. And another weird thing is she also has a brow bone, but even though she has a brow bone, her brow bone isn't low set. So even though you have a brow bone, doesn't mean that your eyebrows are going to be lower set. So that's one thing that I've noticed. Usually if people have prominent brow bones, their eyebrows tend to be more closer set, but for hers, it's actually the opposite. The deviation from the ipsilateral alar angle to the jaw frontal angle is 22 degrees. 22 degrees is a massive difference. Like I said again, this is probably one of the highest in all the celebrities I've done. This is probably like the third highest I've seen of a deviation. I'm telling you, you do not want to have a massive deviation. it will break harmony. This is the definition of harmony. You want things to kind of align together, which is the mid-face angle and the jaw frontal angle. Now, let me say this. Her jaw frontal angle, I believe, was somewhere around the low 80s. I think it was like an 84, 85. So the jaw frontal angle isn't bad. It's just, like I said again, with the eye area, the eyes are too spread far apart. Now, I will say this. There is a side measurement there is two side measurements that can affect the front measurements. And that is the length of the nose. So how tall is your nose? And also the mandibular plane angle. So the mandible, how downswung is your mandible? So that can affect those two measurements as well, going from the side view angle. So yes, the side view angle can also affect measurements in the front view, but not always, but sometimes. Her lower third proportions is perfectly fine at 31%. And so she does have a pretty balanced lower third, even though her lower third is the most dominant portion of her thirds. Her lower thirds are perfectly spaced out. So this contributes to having a well-balanced lower third proportions, which you do want to have. The gonial angle is one of the biggest, the biggest measurement in the side view profile. And another thing I do want to address is, y'all see that 8% right next to the gonial angle? I know some of y'all are probably wondering, what are these percentages for? It's pretty much, I ordered it down to importance. So if you want to know how much that measurement is worth, that's why I have that percentage there. So for any of y'all who are confused about that percentage that y'all see on top, that's pretty much the amount that measurement is worth for the side view. And I also did it for the front view as well. So I know some of y'all probably had those type of questions going on in your head. So 140 is a bit too obtuse for a female, even though females can get away with a little bit more wider gonial angles. And we're going to see why this is 140 degrees. All right, so her mandible plane angle can attribute to the 140 degree gonial angle. And this is very downswung. And this is still going to be a tier 2. Anything past 28 is going to get you at a tier 3. But like I said again, you can have a mandible that is downswung. Everybody's mandibles is downswung to a certain degree. Don't get that mistaken. Everybody has a downswung mandible. But if it's too downswung, I'm talking about getting closer to 30 degrees of an angle, or even past 35. I've seen that a couple of times. I'm not going to name the celebrities, but I've seen a couple of people with mandibles that are really, really downswung, and that can drastically affect your front jaw angle. And so your mandibular plane angle is very huge for your frontal jaw angle. So this right here can contribute to her gonial angle being very obtuse. Now, her ramus to mandible ratio, she does have a very short ramus, as you can see right here. So this contributes to having a very, very short jaw body. Now, I will say the gonian bone, I know some of y'all probably don't know what the gonian bone is, but it is the bottom part of the ramus. The very bottom part of the ramus where the mandible and ramus meet, that is the gonian bone. Now, I do have a measurement where the gonian bone does pass the lip line. I know it's kind of hard to believe because it looks like it's at the lip line, but the gonian bone is actually past the lip line. So I did give her credit for that. Now, her ramus is a bit short for her face, and she does not have that much jaw body. And some people might say, well, females have less jaw body, which is not true. That's why I made that data set or that data sheet with all the celebrities' angles. And so females have probably slightly longer ramuses than men, believe it or not, in terms of ratio to ramus to mandible. So get that notion off your head. Like I said again, females can have just as long ramuses as men. And so you do want to have a lengthy ramus. It just looks better and it looks more aesthetically pleasing. The nasal projection is 0.56. So 0.56 is going to be a tier 1 for you. And a tier 1 means that she does have a well projected nose. And her nasion, or her nasal bridge, I should say, isn't really too high up on her face for a Caucasian lady. And yeah, so that's probably why she has a lot of nose protrusion. You do not want to have a nasal bridge that is too wide or too high up, and you do not want to have a nasal bridge that is too low set. It's not gonna make the face look robust, I guess you can say. And yeah, and if you have a nasal bridge that is a little bit too low, it also can make your nose appear too lengthy or too projected forward. So yeah, and the nasal width to height projection is 0.79, still a tier 1. She does have a lengthy nose, believe it or not. Now, the one thing that I did want to talk about is because of the ipsilateral angle, right? So I did talk about the difference between the jaw frontal angle and the ipsilateral angle. Now, this right here can contribute to the ipsilateral angle, just how like the mandibular plane angle can contribute to the frontal jaw angle. This is the same thing with the ipsilateral angle. It is one factor to it. The eye spacing is another factor to it. So if you can combine those two things, you can kind of gauge how the ipsilateral angle should be, right? So her nose, she does have the nasal length for it, but she didn't have the eye spacing for it. So if her eyes were a little bit more closer set, because 51% is crazy. So, but if her eyes was a little bit more closer set, then she would have had better harmony between her jaw and her ipsilateral angle. So the side view does affect the front view to a certain degree, not all the time, but to a certain degree, it can affect the front. All right, now let's see how the nose affects the chin. Now remember, I did say that she had good facial convexity, so also keep that in mind because this measurement also takes into account her facial convexity. With that, it also takes into account her chin projection and her nose. That's how we get the nasal mental angle. And another thing that can affect the nasal mental angle is how long her mandible is, right? So to be honest with y'all, if she has a lengthy mandible, that can kind of offset her not having that much of a chin, which she does not have that. And her chin passes her nasion, right? So she does not have any jaw recession. So she does have a pretty good balance between her chin and her nose. So that's how she got a tier 1 for this measurement. So her chin harmonizes well with her nose. But preferably if she had a chin that was a little bit more projected to give it a better angle for the mental labial angle, then that will also be even better for her. So she did have a chin, which she could have one. The angle would increase maybe to closer to 131, 132. It will still affect that measurement, but it will still be a tier 1 altogether and help other measurements as well without affecting her facial convexity, which she does have a very good facial convexity. And then the last measurement is the brow ridge inclination, and she got 18 degrees. 18 degrees means that she does have a pretty inclined brow ridge, I guess you can say, or forehead inclination. I wouldn't say brow ridge, but forehead inclination. And one surprising thing is I would expect her to have some brow bossing, and brow bossing is pretty much the extension of the brow bone moving forward, which you do not see here. And a lot of male models, I guess you can say, have this, and she does not have that at all. One example of a person with a lot of prominent brow bossing is Mike Tyson. If you see him from the side, or even if you see him from the front, if you look at his brow area, it's very prominent. For hers, is not. Females don't usually have that. It's usually exclusive to men. But for her, since her nasal frontal angle was very low set, I thought she would have had it, but not everybody has it, I guess. But if anybody, I thought, she may have it. You never know. But this is not bad at all. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So she is within the top 50 percentile. I thought she would have scored higher because she is, I guess, sexualized. So if a woman is sexualized, you'll probably perceive her to be more attractive than what she really is. But who knows? The power of makeup and the dresses that the person wears and how they behave in movies, I guess you can say, can kind of affect the way you think about that person, right? And so yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm gonna have more videos coming up soon. And yeah, I'm out.